The acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo is tomorrow due to hand over the second part of 3 parts of the state capture inquiry report to the presidency. The date change was announced by the presidency this morning. The presidency will publish this part of the report shortly after it's presented to the Director General in the presidency, Pandile Beleni. Phase 2 of the report is supposed to highlight findings regarding state-owned entities, including Transnet, PRASA and Eskom. The second document follows the publication of the first phase at the beginning of the year. Part 3 will now be submitted at the end of February. Well, our reporter, Tumaole Mohlaoli, joins me in studio. Tumaole, good afternoon to you. You've been covering the Zondo Commission for so much of your life. We seem to be getting closer to some kind of end to it. What can we expect tomorrow?
Well, Stephen, what we can expect tomorrow is certainly a report that focuses more on SARS and also that deals specifically with the new age briefings. Those new age briefings, we know, of course, were briefings that were held, and those briefings where government ministers, we heard through the Zondo Commission of Inquiries hearings that they were heard and they were summarily called out to come and brief the nation live on television on the SABC platform about what was going on in terms of the deals that entered into with Gupta-related companies, and some of them were caught off guard. So we certainly will be looking at that, and this is what we can expect from the report, the second part that will be released.
So as I understand the procedure tomorrow, it'll go to the presidency and then gets published by the presidency, is that right?
Yes, so it'll go to the presidency, and as this happened when the initial report was released, the report will then be published on platforms including the presidency website and including social media, the presidency's Twitter platform, and then in time, as it is printed out, it will be available at post offices, and we're told at public libraries as well, Stephen.
So my obvious question, and I speak as a journalist, Tumaole, is how long do we expect this one to be? The last one was over 800 pages. Is it going to be a similar length? And let's look at what it's looking at. It's looking at SOEs. Yes. There's so much to go through.
Indeed, a lot to go through, Stephen, and 800 pages or a bit more. We saw in the last report that it was extremely thorough in the way that it detailed how the testimony was basically, looked at and unpacked in the report. So we can expect something along the same amount of pages. And also when you look, of course, at the goings-on at the new age and how the evidence that was delivered before the Zondo Commission of Inquiry details specifically at the ministerial level and how the Guptas basically were seemingly calling ministers at will to come and detail government policy before even being made public on government public platforms. So this is something that we can look to be basically expanded on, and the findings of how this will be dealt with in terms of the recommendations for any law enforcement agencies and those who are implicated, what will then follow as far as government's policy in terms of dealing with those who are found to be wanting by that report.
Do you think there are a particular group of people, Tumaole, who may be having a sleepless night? I'm just thinking of people who had to testify fairly often at the Zondo Commission about all of this. So I'm thinking Malusi Gigaba, who was Minister of Public Enterprises. I'm thinking Matsela Koko, who was involved, of course, at Eskom. Both deny wrongdoing, but we'll get a finding tomorrow. There must be several others.
Several others indeed who would have been part of those particular briefings. And when you look at, of course, people like perhaps even Brian Molefe, and Brian Molefe is someone who was seen, as a shining star in terms of his credentials in the management. He was, of course, a CEO, and he was made, of course, also moved between Transnet and moved between Eskom. It didn't end well for him on both occasions, but he basically cried foul, saying that his firing and the way that he was dealt with was unfair because he was trying to transform those particular state-owned entities in terms of the contracts that were issued to them. So certainly we can expect those names to be the names that are touted, those names that are dealt with in the report. And it will be interesting to see exactly what recommendations come in terms of what the situation is. And one other name that perhaps we could be looking out for is the name of one Dudu Myeni, Stephen.
Well, last group of people who have something to look forward to tomorrow. Tumaole Mohlaoli will have live coverage. He'll be anchoring our live coverage, of course, when that report is released tomorrow.